Have you ever wondered why you're the only human walking this planet? Not the only person, the only species of human. Somewhere between the caves and the cities, every other kind of human being that ever existed simply vanished. And for most of our history, we didn't even know they existed at all. It seems ordinary now, this idea that human means one thing, one body plan, one kind of skull, one kind of mind, but rewind just 50,000 years and the earth was crowded with us. Plural. Neanderthals moved through the frozen forests of Europe, thick boned and cold adapted, with brains as large as ours, sometimes larger. In the caves of Siberia, a mysterious group called the Denisovans left behind little more than a finger bone and a tooth, yet that was enough to prove they were real and different and gone. On a small island in Indonesia, a tiny human stood barely 3 feet tall. Scientists nicknamed her the Hobbit, and she may have still been alive when our ancestors were building the first fires in nearby caves. So, what happened? Why did they disappear while we spread across every continent on Earth? The answer used to seem simple. For decades, the story was that Homo sapiens were smarter, more adaptable, more advanced, and the others simply couldn't compete. But the deeper scientists dug, the more that story started to crack. Neanderthals weren't the dim witted brutes of old textbooks. They made tools, they controlled fire, they buried their dead, sometimes with flowers scattered over the grave. Some evidence even suggests they created art, abstract engravings on cave walls in Spain, made tens of thousands of years before modern humans ever set foot there. If they were capable of all that, intelligence alone can't explain why they're gone and we're not. Here's where the story gets stranger. When scientists finally sequenced the Neanderthal genome, they found something almost nobody expected. Neanderthal DNA is still here. It's inside you. If your ancestry traces outside Africa, somewhere between 1 and 4% of your genetic code came directly from Neanderthals, which means, in a very real sense, they never fully disappeared. They were absorbed, interbred, woven into the very species that replaced them. That single discovery changed everything. Extinction wasn't a clean break. It was messier, slower, more intimate than anyone imagined. For thousands of years, different kinds of humans lived side by side. They competed for the same caves, the same herds, the same rivers, and sometimes they didn't fight at all. Sometimes they had children together, but living alongside each other wasn't enough to guarantee survival. Something still tipped the balance, and most researchers now believe it wasn't one single cause, but a slow accumulation of small disadvantages. Climate was one of them. The Ice Age didn't move in a straight line. It swung wildly from brutal cold to sudden warming over and over, sometimes within a single human lifetime. Neanderthal bodies were built for stability, short, powerful, heat conserving frames suited to a harsh but consistent world. When the climate began swinging unpredictably, the very traits that once protected them became a burden. Numbers mattered too. Genetic evidence suggests Neanderthal populations were always small, scattered bands, thinly spread, disconnected from one another. Homo sapiens, by contrast, appear to have formed wider social networks, trading not just tools, but ideas and maybe even partners across long distances. A small population is fragile. It only takes one bad decade, one failed hunting season, one harsh winter, to push a fragile group past the point of recovery. And then there's the idea that unsettles people the most. Maybe it wasn't a war and it wasn't even really a competition. Maybe it was just arithmetic. If Homo sapiens groups were even slightly better at cooperating, slightly better at passing down knowledge, slightly more resilient to shortage, those tiny advantages, repeated across thousands of generations, would have been enough. No battles required, just time and probability working quietly in our favor, which brings us to the uncomfortable truth hiding underneath this whole story. We often think of extinction as something that happens to other creatures, a fate that belongs to dinosaurs, to dodos, to species too weak to survive. But the disappearance of the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, the hobbits of Flores tells a different story. It tells us that being human was never a guarantee of survival. It was a roll of the dice that, for reasons still only partly understood, landed in our favor. So the next time you look in a mirror, remember this. You're not looking at the only possible outcome of human evolution. You're looking at the version that happened to make it through, carrying quite literally the ghosts of the others in your DNA.